Good evening. It is my pleasure to address you at the very end of the second edition of Bay of Bengal Conversation 2023, and to have with me two distinguished participants and speakers on very interesting and hotly debated topic of the future of diplomacy and the relationship between bilateral and multilateral approach to diplomacy. So with me today, I have Major General retired John Gomes, and also retired ambassador of Bangladesh to Philippines, that is currently running very exciting project of hospital in Dhaka as a CEO. And also Mr. Anurag Acharya, who is director of policy entrepreneurs in Kathmandu in Nepal. So we are going to spend half an hour tonight with you and hopefully shed light on these important questions. So bilateral diplomacy, of course, is being seen as becoming stronger and stronger because multilateral system is being seen as weak. But of course, there are some indications, of course, that multilateral system is regaining its strength. We are just having very active chairmanship of India, of G20 group, and G20 is arguably becoming, in a way, informal substitute of UN Security Council and a platform where Global West, or G7, and Rising Global South, or BRICS Plus group, can have a sort of the platform to come together and at least try to keep communication channel open. So my first question to Ambassador would be, how do you see future of diplomacy, and how do you see this relationship between bilateral and multilateral approach to cooperation between countries? Do you see that those two processes are alternative to each other and mutually exclusive? Or do you feel that these two approaches could and should work hand in hand? Please.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to recall what our Father of the Nation said about our relationship with the other countries. He says, friendship to all and malice to none. That was the key principle of our relationship with the outside countries. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, she recently had stated, our priority is how we can develop our country. For our development, I believe that we should have good relationship with every country. So these are the two key points which I remember when we talk about bilateral and multilateral. India has a very large border with us, with Bangladesh, and I can say with confidence that we have got excellent relationship with India. Just a couple of years ago, we had been having a very outstanding land dispute, and that has been resolved in 2015 by bilateral negotiation. We also had a problem with the maritime issues. There, India has been talking to us since a long time, and then of course we had taken the support of the International Court and arbitration, and their ruling was in our favor, and it was very nice of India that they accepted that ruling, and that actually reinforces the strength that if you have a good relation with your neighbors, then even if you go for a bilateral negotiation, it can be resolved. It can be resolved. So in my view, I think that every country, they would first think of their own interest and the people's interest. So based on that, they will carry out the diplomacy of bilateral or multilateral negotiation. And I feel our government, they have been quite successful in both these sectors.
So from your experience and from very concrete examples that you just gave us, My conclusion is that you feel that those two approaches can work hand in hand and are working in practice hand in hand, bilateral one and multilateral one.
Both ways, both ways. I feel that our Prime Minister, she had attended the BRICS summit and she was there also in the G20. So that approach is still open when it comes to multilateral approaches. We are members of the UN and we honor our relationship with the other countries. So whenever we seek assistance for any issues, maybe for trade or any disputes, we can approach that angle of the multilateral approach. But I personally feel that it is always good to have a direct negotiation with your neighbors, and that works better in the long run. With Myanmar, we still have a working relationship with them, even though we have an influx of refugees, Rohingyas who are pushed away from that country. And Bangladesh has gone to the international body. And so the UN is involved in it, and many other countries, they are actively helping us to resolve this crisis. But like I said, that we are not, we are still having a relationship with Myanmar on this, that they should take those people back. And some of the regional countries are helping us in this respect. China is one, India is another one, that they are still talking to them. So this two-pronged approach is, I think, quite good for us.
Thank you, Ambassador. Mr. Acharya, from your own experience and from experience of Nepal, how would you see the future of regional initiatives of cooperation in that part of in this part of Asia, like SAARC and BIMSTEC? What do you feel that, after all lessons learned, you would describe as the best model of cooperation in this region? And how do you see the benefits of Nepal as a small country in this part of the world from those multilateral initiatives, not only regional one, but also from a membership of Nepal in United Nations and various groups, including group of developing nations within United Nations?
I think to begin with the first part of your question, I think I will complement to what Ambassador Gomes just said about, it's not about, this versus the other approach, but, as a developing countries, and I'm sure it also applies to other countries in the developed world, it's about finding a fine balance of, when to use a bilateral approach and when to use a multilateral approach, because both have its values. For instance, Ambassador Gomes just mentioned that, in case of Rohingya crisis, there had to be a, multilateral, approaches to, finding a solution because of sheer magnitude of the problem. If I can recall, in Nepal also we had, Bhutani refugee problem. We tried to, approach through multilateral platforms, including the UN, to find solution. Often, Nepali diplomats tried to also talk regionally. We had a SAARC platform that I'll talk a bit later about. But platform like SAARC is not for bilateral issues, but for the regional issues. But the way the problem was framed was not, presented as a regional challenge. So that's why that kind of subject would not be admissible in that kind of platform. But I see the value of, bilateral approaches. Bangladesh has done a commendable job of, resolving its border dispute with India bilaterally. But Nepal has not been able to do so. Whereas we have an open border relationship with India on 3 sides, which signifies that there is a very close and warm relationship between people. And for a large extent of our relationship with India, also at the government level. But at this moment, I have to accept that the trust level between the two governments may not be at the level that is conducive to discussing these kind of disputed issues. But then that does not mean that Nepal and India cannot bilaterally talk about other kind of cooperation. For instance, bilaterally we have been doing fantastic job on cooperating on energy cooperation, energy trade, including with Bangladesh joining in. But Nepal has made use of both bilateral as well as multilateral approaches. Through multilateral approaches, Nepal has been able to establish itself as a country that is for the peace through our participation in the UN peacekeeping forces, and also through UN and also earlier through our active participation in the non-aligned movement. So there has been a history of how Nepal has chosen its platform to put forward its interests and agendas, and I'm sure it's the same with other countries in the region as well.
So now more concretely, you mentioned SARC, and Secretariat of SARC is in Nepal, in Kathmandu,
Right.
but bilateral disputes between India and Pakistan has been endangering the functioning of whole SARC regional initiative, and many are considering that initiative to be dead. So first of all, do you agree with that? But even more importantly, do you see still the value and benefit to Nepal of having secretariat of that regional initiative based in Kathmandu?
Yes, that brings me to the second part of the question that you asked earlier as well. That first of all, I would not agree that SARC is dead because but it is in a state of coma at this point, because both India and Pakistan have not been able to agree to how to mutually resolve, not allow their mutual disputes to affect this platform. Because SARC was created as a mutual platform for cooperation, and you can cooperate despite your differences, and India and Pakistan have shown that they can move forward in other platforms. They have done so in UN platforms, they have done so in other platforms as well. There are differences between India and China, but they have been able to participate in other platforms like BRICS and Shanghai Cooperation platform. So it is not that it is insurmountable problem that impedes the progress of SARC. It is the unwillingness on the part of both countries. I would not put blame on one country. I think it is on both sides. So India and Pakistan would have to take a look at other regional neighbors and see the value of this platform that we have created, and try to engage despite having their disputes. I mean, like, there are a lot of bilateral or other multilateral ways of finding a solution to their disputes, but SARC does not have to be victim of those problems. There is other platforms like BIMSTEC, where India has been able to collaborate with other South Asian neighbors. There is no reason why SARC has to be the exception.
How do you see, Ambassador, the future of those regional initiatives in this region of Asia?
Bangladesh has been a founding member of SARC, so it all started from here. So I would definitely expect that SARC should continue functioning. Now it's just the question of one or two countries. Otherwise, I think this forum is very useful. I mean, now you imagine, they say that India and China, they have a very large trade going on between each other, and so economic benefit is there if you can continue with such forums. We have trade virtually with all the countries of SARC. So I would feel that it should be rejuvenated. Definitely, it should not die down, or this is my feeling. And I feel that when you're talking, you are communicating. You can bring out your issues. And if you're not talking, then you will continue, having a lack of some mistrust between each other. So I feel that this is a forum where you can talk across the table, bring your views and resolve the crisis. I mean, I feel that recently when we had these skirmishes between India and China, they had an agreement, and so it was stopped. So SAARC is one forum that we, 7 countries of SAARC, we can sit down together and continue how to improve. We have got so many ways to improve our livelihood. You talk about education, health, economic benefits, culture. So I feel that SAARC should continue. It's
What about BIMSTEC?
BIMSTEC is also another forum where we can develop further on this, because this is also something new which has been initiated.
Jovan, let me just interject over
Please.
here, because we are just talking about forums within South Asia, but as a developing country, we would also like to talk about multilateral institutions that operate at a global level.
Sure.
Because as a developing country, I think we stand to lose with the effectiveness of these multilateral organizations being put into question. Of course, we do value and we do benefit from bilateral diplomacy with powerful countries like United States, China. Nepal has tremendously benefited, from United States' long-standing bilateral development cooperation, and now it is also, trying to benefit from BRI, China's BRI. Bangladesh is already doing.
Yes.
But we do value the, effectiveness of multilateral organization, and it concerns us that, after 70 odd years of how the multilateralism, started in the form of, so initially League of Nations, and then really later with UN and Bretton Woods institutions coming into scene. I think for 7 decades they have done a good job, commendable job of maintaining global peace and security, as well as maintaining financial stability globally. We have seen a lot of crises that UN as well as global financial institutions have been able to resolve. But over the last 1 decade or so, its composition and its effectiveness has been come into question. For instance, countries like India has been demanding, and rightly so, reforming and recomposition of United States Security Council.
United Nations, yes.
Yes, United Nations Security Council, and as well as the fact that even China and other rising powers, they are demanding greater say in the global financial institutions. It signals that the credibility of the financial institutions, global financial institution, as well as other multilateral institutions like United Nations, is in the hands of those powerful states that came together to form them. I'm particularly pointing at Western countries that were very crucial in forming these institutions. Now it is up to them to maintain consistent credibility of this effectiveness of this institution, because we are being faced with unprecedented problems like pandemic. It's not unprecedented, but recurrence of these global challenges like financial meltdown, pandemic, climate change, and disasters that it has brought with it. Recurrence of these disasters, and we are not going to be able to solve these problems with small regional alliances that look more like Cold War era kind of blocks. I don't want to name names, but some of the smaller alliances that we talk about, they sound more like a political and military blocks, and smaller countries like Nepal and Bangladesh probably as well. We struggle to sometimes balance between the bigger powers, as they have their differences. We have nothing to do with their differences. We are in it for development cooperation. We have our needs.
Thank you. How do you see, Ambassador, this transition of power between global West and global South, and what would be the role of multilateral organizations in all of that? I mean, you know, since war in Ukraine started, UN Security Council has effectively been blocked, and now there is a growing impression that the G20, as I mentioned it in my introduction, is in a way, you know, replacing UN Security Council as this informal platform of cooperation. Then, of course, you have BRICS that is now being enlarged, you know, now officially to become BRICS Plus. How do you see, first of all, the role of multilateral organizations in this kind of new world? Because the world today is definitely not the world where Western powers created those institutions in 1945, as Anurag mentioned. And how do you see the role of Bangladesh in this new global order, let me put it that way?
When Bangladesh achieved its independence in 1971, naturally millions of our people were killed and millions were affected. We virtually had nothing, and we needed the support of the international body. And I remember Russia, India, they were standing with us, and they came forward in many ways, and some other countries also. Japan was there, and slowly and gradually, as time passed, we looked upon to the West also. And today, I think you are aware that our ready-made garments, it's mostly being exported to the Western countries, and our mainstay of economy is that. The USA, they have had the largest investment so far in Bangladesh. Then we have Japan, we have countries like Italy who are taking our garments. Many pharmaceutical products, leather products are also going away to the West. So we do accept the aid, the assistance that we have been getting from the Western countries. So in my view, we are grateful to them, and I think that we should continue our relationship to the West. At the same time, I also think that the regional blocs, we also have to look upon our own neighbors, and so we don't want to antagonize our neighbors and then just tilt away to the West. So there is a very good balance going on in Bangladesh right now, that we have excellent relations with the West, and also we have got good relation with our neighbors, China, India, Japan, Australia, you name it. We recently, just 1 or 2 years ago, we forwarded some economic assistance, financial assistance to Sri Lanka when they were having this dollar crisis. So it's a mix of both. I wouldn't like to isolate the West and then remain intact with our own region. So in my view, this is a global order. We are part of the UN body. So we should accept the reality that we need assistance from each other as well as from the Western countries.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of minutes more to discuss maybe a bit more about future of diplomacy in digital age. And of course, the fact that now we have non-state actors that are emerging as important global players in this whole new structure of international organizations, relations, sorry. I mean, we are here today, here at the conference that was organized by Center for Government Studies, that is one of those non-state actors. Of course, there are many others in this part of Asia, but also globally, that are important of bringing platform for political dialogue, not only within this country and this region, but also with external players. So how do you see basically, diplomacy in this digital age, and how do you see the role of those non-state actors?
I think to begin with, I see a bit concern about over reliance or projection of just the bilateral means of diplomacy. Of course, countries like Nepal and other developing countries do benefit from this bilateral diplomacy because of our need of aids, and the bilateral diplomacy allows for a very flexible and quicker mobilization of funds. But if we flip it and see it from the other side, it is also a means for powerful state to impress or impose its conditionalities on probably economically and militarily weaker states. So that is a concern that we have to recognize, and that concern is already reflecting on inability of so many countries to exercise their sovereignty on decisions that are very critical to their survival. So that is one challenge that we have to see. And coming to the new digital age challenges, I think the kind of problems that we face in the form of cyber attacks and pandemic that I mentioned, and so many other challenges, they require a very sophisticated and a very multilateral approaches, including of China climate change, to bring cooperation of not just 2 or 3 countries, but of entire region and possibly globally coordinated efforts. So that highlights the need of multilateralism while keeping the continued validity or importance of bilateral diplomacy.
Thank you. Ambassador?
Yes, about the cyber issue. I mean, we had a cyber attack on our on a huge amount of money, which we from the Federal Reserve. It landed up in the Philippines, and I was ambassador then, and we could recover some of the money, and it was sent back to the Federal Reserve. So this, and at that time I came to know that it was as of 20 countries they were affected by these hackers. Now we don't have the technology to deal with those experts, so we need the support of technology advanced countries to support us on this. And then data security is happening all the way, or every time you come across that this is happening. So we definitely in this digital age we would need to have the support of this technical support from those countries who are better equipped to deal with these things. And I think that is in one way we are not that equipped to handle, so we try to get the support of those countries.
Well, thank you for these practical examples. I wanted to stress that, of course, while the importance of non-state actors is growing, of course, non-state actors are not here to replace neither states in their role nor international organizations. And thank you also, Ambassador, for stressing that important fact that not all non-state actors are positive. We have criminals that are cooperating very, very well across borders. Some of them even working at a global level, and definitely fighting against cyber attacks and different means of global organized crime. Definitely requires global response. But of course, that global response is in current digital age not only response of the governments and international organizations, but also on non-state actors. For example, in this practical example, international organizations are very frequently relying on big IT companies to provide them support in how to address, cyber attacks and how to fight against those. So we have, I think, a couple of minutes more. So I would like simply to ask you to maybe wrap up this discussion, having in mind the major topic we discussed today. This is the future of diplomacy and bilateral versus multilateral approach. And maybe to have 1 minute each of last word and your message to our audience.
Yes, I mean, when we talk about the multilateral approach, since we failed to get back the refugees back to Myanmar, so this is one area that we need the support of the international body. And today, when I was attending the Bay of Bengal conversation where all the ambassadors were there, and the questions asked to those 4 ambassadors from USA, UK, Canada and Australia were the same thing, that is the Rohingya crisis. And it appears that no one was so much bothered. Just giving some aid and then bringing some medical camps and all, it didn't help us. It's still there, and it has become a big burden to our government. Now, we cannot just push them away. After all, they are human beings and we have to take care of them. Our government is trying its best to cope up with this situation. We have, our Prime Minister has found out some islands where they are trying to rehabilitate those people. But I feel that if you ask my opinion, this multilateral approach didn't work so well. So we need the support of the international body to come in. And I just want to give an example that we had a cyclone many years ago, and then the US Fifth Fleet, they were moving, and then they were directed towards Bangladesh, and they came with the military, and they helped us a lot. So that was a cyclone, affected millions of people, but this is affecting our whole country. So we need to resolve this Rohingya, the refugee crisis in Bangladesh.
Thank you for raising that important and very practical issue that must be resolved. Anurag?
Well, my closing argument would be, if we look at how the world has been, unable to, come to terms or resolve conflicts in Middle East, conflict in Ukraine, it shows the failure of multilateral institutions to effectively mediate or bring an end to this kind of conflict. And it is for this very reason that these institutions were created. So that shows that there is something wrong with how these institutions have been functioning. And if you look at how G7, you opened your statement by saying that effectively G7 and BRICS Plus have come together to kind of form G20 to sit and resolve their disputes and come to a kind of a minimum agreement that benefits the entire world. So there is a solution already there. There was a problem there that we defined, and there is a solution already over there. So if only we take stock of those problems and see how we are moving forward, it shows that there is a value in preserving multilateralism as an effective way of addressing greater human problems. And bilateralism will always exist as a complementary set of approaches to resolving problems that are not necessarily at a global scale, but do have consequences locally or regionally.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both of my guests, Ambassador Gomes and Anurag Acharya. I think it was very, very good, very concrete discussion with a lot of practical examples of how bilateral and multilateral cooperation can work hand in hand, but of course neither of those is perfect and can resolve all the issues on its own, and of course how we can make our world to cooperate better and to include all the actors from the states at level of international organizations, but also at the level of non-state actors. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure being with you for this half an hour.